This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it or qualify it through a variety of methods: time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. The easiest way to say it might be, though, if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to be doing this evening on episode 130 of the Auburn Experience podcast. My name is Kyle. I'm your host, as always. For those of you that don't know me, probably don't want to know me as I'm stammering through the intro. But the guy who doesn't ever stammer through his intro, my co-host, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome.
I don't have an intro, so I guess that's why. And nor do I need one. Good to see you, Kyle. War Eagle. War Eagle to our viewers and listeners, and hope you had a great week, friend.
I did. Hey, how about that rain, my friend? I don't know if it was in Auburn was as bad as it was up here, but I was a grump this week when it came to rain, and I hope that Auburn didn't suffer as much as we did up here.
It was wet. It was something every day. I feel like we got short showers randomly throughout, but just kind of stayed a wet and stayed a dark sky. But it's one of those things I think, and you know as well. I feel like I started navigating this line of thinking as I got became a homeowner in the yard. I'm like, the rain is good, but too much can, like you said, put you in the grumps.
Yes. I cannot tell you how much I despise the rain.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest here. I'm going to do a hot take. I am hoping for a drought right now. I'm just going to be honest with you. I cannot take another week of rain. I better not see an ounce of here, because we saw it literally every day for a long time. And there's nothing worse than it ruining your fun time in Auburn. I'm not there right now, obviously, but I can imagine all the beautiful things that you could be doing with you and your family in Auburn getting ruined by the rain during your Auburn summer. Kind of getting us going here. I'm going to share a little bit of something this week before we get into all the major topics. I figured out a new favorite phrase or word, at least, for members of our Auburn family. Austin, do you know what I'm referring to?
Oh, I know exactly what you're referring to. If you've been on our E2C Network Facebook page at all this week.
Austin I looked on the comment sections and I was like, wait a minute, is that Austin getting into it with somebody?
Like, not getting into it. I was just reminding someone to read what before they click and post.
Can I just issue a public service? First of all, what's the word? Clickbait. All right, I'll get into what I want to talk about that in a second. It's the new favorite phrase for some people. I saw it literally at least twice this week, and both times individuals did not do their due diligence before they said clickbait, which I feel like I could rant 5 different ways about this thing. Let me just public service announcement for you, the Auburn family, because look, our goal here is not to dog people, is not to be rude, but if you set yourself up for it, we're going to hold you accountable for it. Look, we hold the Auburn family in high regard, and we want you to represent yourselves well, even amongst ourselves. Please, before you comment, before you go out in public and make these statements, either in person or especially online, make sure you read carefully. Make sure you do diligence. I know that I mess up on the post sometimes and there's misspellings. I get it. We all make mistakes. A lot for me. But please do your due diligence. This week, a couple times, one was in relation to a story we're going to talk about. Well, both actually, KD Johnson and to a certain fast food chain that everybody is tore up about. I'm shocked with.
One way or the other.
One of the first comments we get is clickbait. And I go on to ask, what is the clickbait? This isn't happening. And I'm like, well, actually it is. And if you read, it's not happening because I was just there at this one. Well, because it's talking about this specific location, or someone had assumed that I said KD Johnson was coming back to Auburn to play. No, if you follow all the context clues, very careful, because I know how some of y'all need help, and let me hold your little baby hands and pat you on the, like that. I'm sorry. Listen, I know I need to give people grace, but just times, people, please do the Auburn family a favor in how you represent yourself and us. Please do your due diligence and read. I'm done, Austin. That's all I need.
Well, we didn't intend to start this episode off with the crotchety old man segment, but here we are. No, I mean, and to play devil's advocate, I get it for some people. We live in a world and day and age now where there's a lot of paywalls. There's a lot of people trying to get you to click certain links because it drives up revenue for them. Very rarely is that the case for us. At E2C Network, I think Kyle's done a really good job with our social media posting on transparency and just informing the Auburn family. And so it's okay. Just take a breather. Social media does not have to be a hostile place. It's got that what's my word here? Reputation a lot of times nowadays, but it doesn't have to be that way. So everybody just simmer down, just bring it down just a little bit.
If I haven't upset enough people, let me go ahead and say this. Social media, and especially like sports social media, has become barstoolified. Like everyone wants to be the hot take person, to have the spicy take, to be put someone in their place and things like that. And I know it's ironic with what I just said, but it's just everybody read, due diligence, then make sure your comment is in context of what was actually being purported, talked about, all that stuff. All right. Anyway, do you have anything lighter that's gone on this week for you before we get into all our stuff?
Not too much. I one little side Auburn Experience moment. I got to have lunch with our good friend Clint Richardson this week.
He did tell me that y'all had fun. I'm sorry. By the way, I'm sorry about that.
We had a great time. We
Nike. That's all the kid can talk. I'm kidding, Clint. I'm kidding. Go ahead. Sorry.
Clint and I had a good lunch. We visited Honey Baked Ham, which is right near Tigertown, Opelika. If you've never been to Honey Baked Ham, I would definitely encourage you to check it out. They do not just sell hams at Thanksgiving and Easter. They've got the Honey Baked Ham in Opelika has a lunch menu, and you can go in there and have lunch. Now, ironically, Clint had never been, and so he suggested it, and I said we love it. That was a place we wanted when we had the boys in the hospital. It's right across the street, so we got some. Now, ironically, on Clint's first time, Honey Baked Ham was out of ham. Hey, it happens. Look,
hey, listen. Stuff
like
happens.
We just said, stuff happens. It's a mistake. They had their good reasons. But Clint and I had a good time. It was good to catch up with him. And so I thought about that. That's probably not a place not a lot of people get to, especially if they're just coming in Auburn for the weekend, but a really good spot.
Seems like a little Auburn mandate just happened.
That's what happened. That's what happened. Yep.
See, these are the things that you can do when you're a resident of Auburn.
That's exactly right.
All right, rub it in our face.
Think how many times we could have gone to Honey Baked Ham by now.
We could have. We'll make it happen at some point. Hopefully they'll have ham that time.
Hopefully.
Anyway.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Meta AI is the personal AI to help you with whatever you need. Plus, it meets you where you are. Not only is Meta AI now an app, but it's also on the apps you already know and love. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. Plus the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. It's easy to access wherever you are. So whether you're talking or texting, Meta AI is convenient to use throughout your day. Experience our newest AI that's tailored to you by downloading the Meta AI app. Try the Meta AI app today on the Apple App Store and Google Play.
All right, we got a full show for you guys, so let's get into it. Let's start with Auburn Potpourri. This is where we catch you up on a lot of various Auburn news that we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on. Let's get started off with probably on this week of all the small things we're going to hit, probably the biggest news implications for next season for Auburn men's basketball in this changing world of NIL and transfer portal and things that head coaches are having to manage. You've seen it in football already. The position of GM is being given and earned by several people. We've talked about that previously with football, but now men's basketball is not only hiring someone, but bringing back someone. Matt Gatens, I believe, is, if we're mispronouncing that, I'm sorry, Matt, but welcome back. He is formerly a GA with Auburn and Bruce Pearl. In 2017, he's been an assistant coach at Iowa, who we beat. So maybe he's like, I don't like getting beat by Auburn. Let me come back and play with them. He will take on the role of GM for men's basketball. So Austin, your thoughts, whatever you'd like to say or inform people about what this means for Auburn, The floor is yours for Matt Gatens.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know, and we've mentioned before with the promotion of Ian Borders, we are very prone to, or Bruce Pearl's very prone to be comfortable with who he hires and wants people that understand what he's trying to do. And if you're an Auburn fan and you don't agree with that line of thinking, then I'm not sure you've enjoyed the success the last few years. So I want whatever Bruce wants. Matt Gatens is a guy he has discipled, has been a GA, and is now going to get to be his GM. And so that's going to be really cool for Matt. I think according to Coach Pearl's post I saw this week, he was an alum. He's an alum from Iowa, and was apparently in the mix for the head coaching job there. So, a very seasoned basketball mind that gets to come back to the Plains and, like you said, take on this new role in college athletics of general manager and finding talent. I think that should excite a lot of people. I know the NIL world is spooky and can be scary, and some of us are still getting used to it. But in this day and age, I think if you look at it in the way that you hire people so that your Hall of Fame basketball coach can keep focusing on basketball, it's a good thing.
It is absolutely a good thing. And whether you like it or not, these changes are being made by others, especially the most prominent programs. So you've got to, accept it for what it is. This is the new world of college athletics, and a GM for some of these major programs is really required at this point. Just as kind of a blurb of what was released when they put out the statement about him being hired, he'll be in charge of roster management and evaluation, scouting, recruiting, game planning as well. So keep in mind, even though he's a GM, I think he'll probably be called coach by a lot of people too, in terms of what he may or may not be involved with. But he's also going to take on agent, donor relations. So it's become that right-hand man type of position for the head coach to help ease the pain of what he's trying to deal with in all aspects of leading a top tier program. And Auburn basketball certainly is that. There's no question about that. Matt Gatens, your new GM for Auburn's men's basketball. Welcome back. And we're excited to see what he'll do in the coming weeks, months, and years, hopefully, with Bruce Pearl and Auburn basketball. Keep it in the basketball realm, but this is technically like the pros realm or semi-pros realm. And this isn't the first time or the last time, especially this summer, we're going to be talking about the subject of War Ready. Most of you know War Ready is the 64-team tournament that's held during the summer, the basketball tournament, very heavily alumni team based. So there's like Louisville's alumni team, there's Kentucky's alumni team, so on and so forth. Auburn has one. We won't go into the nitty gritty of all that. We've talked about the history of that before. And once we get all the details, we'll fill you in. But there was a big one this week, Austin. One that I think should make every reasonable, I say that for reasonable Auburn fan super excited about, because this is your semi-pro team, the War Ready. They have literally changed their identity for the Auburn family. Katie Johnson is back. Little Psycho, our little Psycho, back fully in some ways within the fold of the Auburn family after going away for his senior year. This got me so hyped this week, Austin.
Yeah, it's a big announcement for War Ready. Obviously, Katie Johnson is a fan favorite at Auburn. Made himself very involved in the Auburn community and Auburn family during his time here, and like you said, went to get some playing time and did very well at George Washington in the A-10. But is now back in the Auburn fold in the sense with War Ready. And I think from a basketball standpoint, it adds a lot to that team. Just will be a very good basketball ball handler for them. I do not have the full list in front of me. I think Kyle and I've said we'll talk about that as we get closer in the matchups.
Yeah, it can change a little rapidly during this time where they're finalizing things, but we will.
But I think he'll be a great addition and something this team's been needing. It's always fun to keep track of this team and see how they stack the roster up and who their matchup will be, and it'll all be coming here in the next month or so. But super glad to have KD back, and I think my favorite part about War Ready and TBT is just getting to watch these guys one more time. Or we don't know if they'll play again next year, but we get to see them one more time as a unit and in the orange and blue. And I think War Ready even put out some of their uniforms this week too. And so it looks like Auburn. And so you'll get to see, I don't know if it'll be number 0, but I'll call Agent 0. You'll get to see him in there one more time.
That would be my Horace Spencer.
I knew it. I did that just for you. Just for you.
Don't take away Agent 0 from Horace Spencer. Anyway, look, and also if you have any doubts of this being an Auburn thing, They were trying to raise money to make sure KD could have the finances to be there.
I saw this.
One Jabari Smith gave like $1,000 or something like that towards of his own money. Now, I know it's not really hurting Jabari these days with what he needs, but come on, folks. If Jabari is recognizing this once KD is part of this team and got him over the hump in their finances, this is a reason to get excited. KD Johnson, our little psycho, back in the Auburn connection in some way. I love this, and we'll certainly talk about him, the rest of the roster, whether they're Auburn guys or not, coming up very soon, because I'm sure those details will be coming out in the coming weeks. It's almost time for TBT. Let's talk about an interesting topic, Austin. This is one that when I'm running the E2C Network social media, you put some things out there that are very tertiary to like the typical things people get interested in the Auburn space. And I'm like, I just do this so that we can live out what we preach, to have the whole of the Auburn experience and let people inform people what's going on in the town they love so much. Five Guys, it's a chain restaurant. It's not really something that's been an Auburn thing, like, or had strong Auburn ties, like a Guthrie's or a Mama G's or something like that. But I will tell you, as a personal tie, because it was built while I was in school there, and I lived next door to it. So I remember going when it was crowded.
I didn't know that.
Stuff. Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's closed its doors forever. Downtown, another space empties that. When I say another, like,
sorry, which one closed, Kyle?
That would be the Auburn downtown one, for the
Just checking.
people in the back who don't know how to read before they type a comment, such as clickbait. My gosh. Okay, sorry. You're the one that got fired up in the social media thing about. Now I'm all fired up about it. It is closing, or has closed permanently. Yeah, I mean, people were really interested in talking about this week, Austin.
Yeah, so I mentioned last week when Barrett and I spent some time downtown getting some ice cream. That was when I first saw it. We walked by the doors, and there was a for lease sign, and it said, this location is closed. Please visit our nearest location in Tigertown. I texted my family and just said, hey, check this out. But I did not expect it to just get as big as it would in the Auburn Twitterverse and Auburn family social media realm. Big news. I mean, and rightfully so. I think, anytime a spot downtown opens up, that's pretty big news, especially the closer you get up to Toomer's Corner, and Auburn, and Five Guys is certainly that. But, man, people have some opinions on it. And look, I'm not here to say whether or not it should have happened or not. That's obviously someone who probably doesn't live in Auburn's decision. But, that's an interesting spot that is for lease still. So it's not like this is a, set up for something already coming. But I'm sure we'll update you when a new spot takes it over and the plans are in motion.
Well, let me ask what a lot of people were even asking this week in the comments. Like I said, I'm shocked with the level of engagement this week across all our social media this had. And I think it's because people they're endeared towards the success of downtown, and they want it to succeed no matter who is their chain.
Been there a long time.
Right. It's like I said, it was when I look at my hairline, a lack thereof. That, when I was in college, it was, it was built, and it became a staple downtown. It was packed all the time. Real quick, what would you like to see put in place of it? I'm going to assume it's going to be food-based because of the kitchen already being there.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
It'd be hard to get something not a kitchen, I think. Now, it could be doable, but, I'm just going to go assume the rent is pretty high being in downtown Auburn. So if you want to do that much extra work to fit something else in there, man, that's a good question. My friends and I were talking about that and spitting some things off. I have a hard time thinking you're getting another burger place in there. Whataburger's right down the way, and I think, not saying it did, but might have
McDonald's is there.
Some decisions. We joke all the time about how much fried chicken's around there.
What's one more fried chicken place in Auburn, right?
Some of my friends immediately said Raising Cane's. That's the only one Auburn doesn't have, right? It would do numbers.
No.
But
absolutely not.
I don't think you're going to see a fried chicken place there. I could not come up with like one thing I wanted. There's a street taco place I really like that's more out west, but they haven't even navigated to like this area of the country yet.
Yeah.
So that would be my choice, but that's really like a very specific thing. I don't know. Do you have something? Did you think of something that could go great there?
If it's got to be a food place, I mean, we've got pizza, we've got hamburgers, we've got like your brunch places.
I always see
We've got
people bring up
taqueria,
right.
like
it can't be a
barbecues
Mexican
downtown.
place. I always see people bring up Cava. I've never been, and it's like a if I'm thinking right, like a kind of fast food Mediterranean kind of place.
Oh, I'm thinking something different then. I thought it was another coffee place. I was like, do we need more coffee?
No. Yeah, I've never been. My wife has been, and I think there's one in Montgomery. So that would be something different. I could see. I think it'd be popular, but I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see who pulls the trigger on it.
Zaxby's, I will give you free advertising if you come to downtown Auburn. I'm just saying. Okay.
We just said we don't need another fried chicken place.
I said
we've
what
got
I said.
3 Zaxby's in this town.
I said what I said. 3 months free advertising if you come to downtown Auburn. I will stand by that.
There's nothing though that you can think of like immediately besides Zaxby's.
I struggle. Let's ask you
Please tell us.
We've got some people sharing things in the chat. If you guys, when you watch this clip or hear it back, let's hear from you. Hit us up on social media in the DMs or whatever, or E2C Network at gmail.com. We want to know from you. What do you want to fill that spot in downtown Auburn? All right. We're running behind here, but we got to talk about this. I think this is really cool. We don't often get to inform you guys a ton about swimming and diving, but we think that you should always be aware of things that are going on. This is not necessarily about the program, except that there are 2 guys that are involved in this that are part of our swimming and diving program. If you've heard of SEC Startup, you'll know that it's something they've been doing for a couple of years now, at least in the TV show format, where they give Auburn student athletes a chance to come pitch their small businesses and win prize money to help their startup. So Auburn Swimming and Diving, their 2 guys, Liam Harry and Harrison Rayner, they have created a small business that is called Planet of Snacks. And I think this is really cool. So they're going to be pitching their business, Planet of Snacks. You can visit planetsnacks.com. They import international snacks to the U.S. so people can enjoy their familiar favorites from their home. If they win, they get $10,000. Second place, they get $8,000. Third gets $7,000. And everybody who's a finalist, which they are, already gets $1,500. So they've already got some money. July 14th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. What do you think about that? I mean, Auburn Swimming, Planet of Snacks. Can we just be honest? Our swimming and diving folks, y'all look like y'all are some of the fittest people out there.
Absolutely.
Does this feel weird that Planet of Snacks and the fittest people, it seems like, have that as their business? No shade.
Well,
I'm just.
I mean, those are the people I'm going to trust if they're telling me the right snacks and all the things. So maybe they've got it figured out. I don't know. I like this idea though. It feels very Tiger Cage to me, if you're familiar with the College of Business and their startup, their own startup competition within Auburn. So I think it's great. I think it'd be something really fun to kind of follow. What was the day and time you said on that?
July 14th, 7 p.m. Eastern time on SEC Network is when you can watch this. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm one to peruse around Epcot, to go around the world, and I love eating the international foods there. So I could get in. This could have a little feel to that. I'm going to wish them luck, Liam and Harrison, of swimming and diving. We want to see Auburn people succeed, no matter whether you resonate with their business or not. We love talking about them and propping them up. So check them out, SEC Network, SEC Startup. Auburn Swimming and Diving takes center stage there. Wrapping up potpourri stuff. We didn't have time to get to all these things, but I do want to wish a congratulations to Dylan Cardwell, who got engaged. We all saw that. Everybody gushed about it on the internet, and rightfully so. He's like the penultimate Auburn man. I could not figure out his fiance's name, and maybe they've tried to keep it that way because she wants her privacy given his notoriety. Because I would love to say, she's the not that she's the lucky one. Dylan's the lucky one for, convincing her, because we always try to approach it from that way as the guys, I guess. But congratulations to Dylan, his fiance, for that. Jabari got a new teammate, and Katie meaning Kevin Durant. And so that's some other small news items that were out there this weekend on Auburn Potpourri.
Parents of twins, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. And as your vacation maximizationer, I'm going to make sure you hear the maximum sizzle of Comfort Inn's free hot breakfast. Let's get real close. Maximum apple. Now that is fresh crispimization. Maximum waffle. Hear that crunch. And that's Maximum coffee. Oh yeah, that's the pour I'm talking about. Breakfast maximized before hitting the road. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Now, let's talk about our main topics this week. I honestly, and I shared this with Austin pre-show, don't really know exactly where we're going to go with this one, but it's been sitting for about 2 or 3 weeks now, a major news story, not just for Auburn, but for all of college sports. And that was the settlement reached its finality with the NCAA and whoever else was all involved with that, basically student athletes, and what that means in terms of NIL, rules, stipulations about where schools can get involved with. And so I guess we want to have a discussion time here, but also inform you a little bit about what was said, what happened, and then maybe get into some speculation about what it means. We've tried to hold off on it for a few weeks just to let things kind of settle, see if anything else came out. But there are some things maybe information-wise you can take away from it, and then we speculate. So, Austin, I think you're someone that I trust in this space, so maybe you can inform us a little bit about the gist of what this looks like in this settlement and for college sports.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that if you followed college athletics and the changes over the years, it's been coming down the pipe for a while now. It seems we talk about college football, the video game, a lot on this show. The issues at the center of this case kind of came out of that problem of why it stopped, right? In terms of utilizing student athletes' name, image, and likeness without properly compensating them. If you're taking the side of those who put forth the lawsuit, so that lawsuit kind of finally came to a head when the judge agreed to a settlement between the two parties, with the NCAA and all these student athletes, right? And a lot of it looks like where this is going forward, student athletes can be employees and be properly compensated as with salary like benefits from the university they play for and they represent. So part of this too is a lot of back pay, of like billions of dollars in back pay to students.
2.8 million.
That's a good bit. Let's be billion with a B, people. So I mean, from 2016 to 2024, there's a lot of kids that are going to get some money for their name, image, and likeness having been used. I think predominantly it looks like it's Power 4 football basketball program members, but the biggest thing is moving forward. The schools can begin sharing about right up to about 22% of their qualifying athletics revenue with student athletes, and the initial cap per school looks like it's right at $20.5 million. Now, excuse me. I think that I was reading a little bit that about $2 million of that is already going to kind of be set aside per each school for additional scholarships. So baseball is a great example that there's a set amount of scholarships, but a lot more guys. So you have partial scholarships things. Some schools are going to decide to add more full scholarships to that. But sorry, Kyle.
It's all right.
And so I think that, that's still, depending on what school you're at, $18 to $19 million is going to be spread throughout these student athletes. And that's gonna raise some more issues probably, because the pie is only the pie, and some contribute to the pie a little bit more than others. When you look at those qualifying athletics revenue, like media rights, ticket sales, sponsorships, and to keep those afloat, to keep that number still there, you're gonna have to support some of those more. That's all for other people to decide, and much smarter people than us to decide at Auburn. But the biggest takeaway from all of this is starting July, which is it won't be the next time we're talking to you, but the next time these students will be paid from the university. They'll get checks from Auburn University themselves.
So once again, let me remind everybody, and I think Austin and I also agree, we didn't prefer it to be this way, but it is the way it is. Pandora's box has been opened, and when you open Pandora's box, you cannot put it back in. If you can, it's an ugly mess to get it back in there. So those of you that all you want to say on this is, it shouldn't be this way. I get it. Trust me, I feel the same way. We got to move on and start discussing the realities of this point. Student athlete, yes, but student employee is essentially what this sounds like going forward. A lot of questions out there in terms of what that's going to look like. 20.5 million per school in 2025 to 26, and can increase every year during this decade long. It said, I'm a 10-year deal. Where do we start with this, Austin? Because our goal, yes, is to inform what we do know, but that our focus here is about Auburn and what this means for Auburn. So does anything readily come to mind for you that's the biggest takeaway for what this settlement means for Auburn athletics, Auburn University, Auburn fans? What's the big thing that we need to walk away with here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing, kind of misconception I've seen about all this is, oh, well, finally, all these NIL collectives are going to go away, and I wouldn't be so sure about that. All we've done here is, the way I like to explain it, is kind of raise the floor, right? We've everybody now has 20.5 or 18.5 million dollars to kind of disperse among their student athletes however they see fit. We've already had somebody ask, will Auburn spread that money better than other universities? That's a very subjective question, because better is going to be up to the eye of the beholder, right? However Auburn sees it fit, then they'll say yes, better than other universities, but it's going to be very, different the way you look at each school. But back to the collectives, everybody now has equal footing in 20.5. Like, that's just the floor. I think where you're going to continue to see, like we've seen these past few years, the competitive advantage is going to be what's the gap that your collective can make up amongst your peers. Now, part of this settlement helps, and for Auburn, because that's who we're discussing here, is On to Victory as their primary NIL collective. For Auburn, that just helped. That part of the settlement allows On to Victory kind of work more closely with them. I think you'll see a lot of these really important individuals with On to Victory kind of work more closely in athletics roles or university roles. We talked a while back about the Playfly extension happening with Auburn Athletics. That's who gives you the amazing radio broadcasts from Andy Burcham, Brad Law, and Brett Bowen. That part of that extension that we talked about on this show was that NIL efforts will be kind of supported more through Playfly Max. So I think all of this has kind of been in wheels in motion, and all this has been preparing. The smarter universities are the ones who have been preparing for this and not just waiting to see if it happens. I think Auburn's certainly been on the forefront of that, and hiring people, gaining more people to kind of help them navigate this new era of college athletics is certainly something they've been doing. But I think I don't see NIL collectives going away, but I see them getting more support. So maybe this is a little more not the wild, wild west that we've all been experiencing the last few years. One other thing that I just want to bring up real quick, because I just saw it and I meant to bring it up another big part of this is there's now a college sports commission that has a committee that has to review third-party NIL deals over $600. So all those massive ones you hear about, this quarterback's getting $1.2 million to go play at Michigan, or this quarterback's getting this much to transfer to. A lot of these are going to have to be, assessed and put forth before a committee now, before everything is kind of just as under the table. Now, will stuff still be under the table? Yes, but it might be back to kind of how it was before all this happened, where it's just people can get in trouble for it again. I think that's good when you have that kind of regulation, and we'll see. But things might still be hidden. But I think that from Auburn's standpoint, they've done the right things to prepare for this new era, and we'll have to see how it goes.
There's some saying out there. It's not necessarily who cheats, it's who cheats the best, and or who does it without getting caught the most. So in this world of where you're trying to find every competitive advantage, that you follow the rules and then you figure out maybe where you can bend the rules. So it's been happening since the dawn of time. Fortunately, it will continue to happen. And we don't act here like Auburn's never been part of that stuff. I do tend to think that Auburn has been a little bit more above board than a lot of other places, at least in the majority of from what I've seen. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think that's a great initial takeaway about the collectives, what's going to happen. Yes, maybe some consolidation and maybe organization is the way, it's streamlining of things. Doesn't mean that everything's going to initially just be one entity from now on, but we may be heading that direction. I think a big question for me, and maybe I'm mixing two storylines up here, Austin, but I thought I saw a report of a college that had to drop some non-revenue generating sports, at least compared to other programs, And those tend to be the Olympic sports. And I think it was a track and field program that I saw. Do you think, the first question, do you think that's a danger with this new NIL settlement, this new world of you can be a student employee, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously a danger for any athletic department when each year kind of fluctuates based on where your revenues are coming from and everything. And obviously $20.5 million that they don't have to give out, but if you want to stay competitive, you probably need to give out. They've got to find that money somewhere. And we can argue left and right all day long. And if they've had it and if they just don't, they just still need the cushion, or you can argue that they've got to find it. And I think that there's probably a fine line between the schools that have it, and will have to kind of stretch themselves a little more to make up for it, and the schools that just don't have it. And so I think that it's going to be something where you're going to see some schools, maybe some mid-major schools, have to drop some sports because they just can't afford to keep up, which is really sad. But I think that the schools that are able to fundraise for it and to find other ways to make it happen, one of those is sponsorships. None of us want to see Pat Dye Field presented by Yellowwood, but if you don't think that could,
I want to see that.
If you don't think that could bring in $20 million, I don't know what to tell you. So it's a landscape we'll have to see. Do I think Auburn's in any immediate danger of something like that happen? I don't. I think any Power 5 school, any SEC school is not really in danger of that, unless some things just go south in their financials. But it's a world, like you said. I like you put it really well, Kyle. It's a world that's here, and that it's just a new part of it, whether you like it or not. And so trying to figure out how to navigate it and hope Auburn does it the best way possible is what we're all about.
Yeah, and that's what my biggest fear in all this. And like you said, I don't necessarily think Auburn's in danger of having to drop anything, but you do wonder with some of those happening for smaller schools and some of their non-revenue generating programs. I love Auburn track and field, and I would not want to see that happen here, or whatever, swimming and diving, things like that. There are some great historic things that happened in those sports, and I'd hate to see them end. So hopefully, and as you said, maybe there's not really a fear of that right now, but Auburn's done a really good job, I think, of preparing itself and is ready to take on any challenges. Maybe another real quick, just came to my mind, thought of what this could mean, this NIL settlement and how things are going to go now. Money is now going to be redirected even more so towards paying players, student athlete employees, however you'd like to say that. Everyone's always calling for an arms race in facilities, and we've already seen that affect Bruce Pearl.
Yes,
and whether or not there should have been an expansion / separate facility for training for basketball or things like that. Not to say that won't ever happen, but even Bruce Pearl said, "Hold up." When we talked about this came out, we got to focus on this, or we're going to lose the ground that we've made. People are always screaming Jordan-Hare needs to expand. Let me just point this to you. I think for anything else right now, Hutzel-Rosen track and field facility needs some love in TLC. Just to be honest with you, I'm a little biased on that, but I think it needs that. Do you think that
the Hoppa included?
Well, look, let's just throw the sign up and call it the Hoppa, and it's done. I mean, come on,
wow,
get to the Hoppa. I was just saying.
We could use some permanent bleachers out there, like the rest of our SEC companions for the Hoppa.
Don't you like when it shakes though? When they start, stamping their feet down, like, come on.
I think that program's deserves some upgrades.
No questions here. I'm just saying, if we just want to call it the Hoppa, I can't probably pay for it, but I'll make a little paper sign that says "Get to the Hoppa," and everybody comes in just to hear him say that one time. I don't know. I mean, do you think it'll slow down with that? Is that another implication?
I mean, I think naturally it has to, right? Like we've all seen how much these things cost. We also saw how much the Waltos training facility for Auburn football costs. It's massive numbers. And with, like we just talked about, when it comes to keeping sports, those numbers are going to be crunched tight. And I think donor fatigue is a real thing too. When you look at, you can't keep going back to the well every time and say, "Hey, we'd like to upgrade Jordan-Hare. Can I have $1 million? Hey, we need to stay competitive in football. I need $1 million." Like, I think you're going to have to be very strategic about where you ask for your money and certain things. And like, I think Coach Pearl has made a very good example of your players and getting competitive teams here is kind of what comes first and foremost. You can say it's the chicken or the egg, but right now the NIL space is kind of what's calling first and primarily, and making sure that teams are competitive before facility upgrades. So it's a balancing act, because I think it definitely will have to probably be both in a way, but how Auburn navigates it will be really interesting to watch.
Right. And I think we're all going to have our opinions about what could or should be done for certain sports. But the reality is this is all about money. And I think we've just proven that with why we're even talking about this. And so money talks. And so unfortunately, sometimes that results in things like programs being dropped. Thankfully, it's not Auburn yet, nor do we really fear that'll happen right now. But the best thing that I can do or say for you, the Auburn family, is be patient, be prepared. Those costs will eventually come down to you. And I'm talking about the everyday Auburn fan, not the donors who are giving millions of dollars. And we're very thankful for that. But this is going to affect us all. But the reality is if you love Auburn, you'll find a way to manage it and still support them throughout all those things, throughout the ups and downs and the frustrations that come with an ever-changing world of college athletics. But hopefully Auburn's poised to tackle all those challenges in a good way for the future of Auburn and future of the fans and the athletes and all that kind of stuff.
America's beverage companies are investing in America. We're American companies making American products with American workers in America's hometowns. We're local bottlers and manufacturers operating in all 50 states, employing more than 275,000 Americans in good-paying jobs, delivering for the nation because we believe in the promise of America and the people who make it great. Learn more at wedeliverforamerica.org. Paid for by the American Beverage Association.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Our final major topic this evening, we're going to do a combined basketball topic this week. Two bigger stories this week was the announcement of Auburn basketball's for men's and women SEC schedule, not schedules. I shouldn't say that because it's technically not schedules, but just opponents that they'll be playing. That's the new trend these days, is that you release the opponents, not necessarily the schedule, but just to give everybody that little tease. And I'll admit it's a tease. I kind of like that though. But let's start with the men's basketball because this week we found out who the 2025-26 Auburn men's basketball team is going to take on in SEC competition. And I think there's a lot to talk about here.
There is
a couple of things that I take a little issue with. And I think Austin knows what I'm talking about. Let me give you the rundown as we always try to do here, and then we'll talk about it. We'll sit on a little bit. All right. So this year, Auburn men's basketball will be playing these teams at home and away. And then I'll give you some other little cool tidbits and not so cool tidbits. Home, Kentucky, LSU, South Carolina, Texas, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Alabama, Arkansas, and Ole Miss. Away, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, Ole Miss. Hold it there. We will talk about it. A couple of cool notes from this schedule. This will be the first time that Auburn will play Texas in program history, in program history. Yeah, not just as an SEC opponent, but the first time that Auburn will travel to Norman, Oklahoma. We played them obviously last year, and I think it was the Big 12 SEC challenge that we used to do. We had Oklahoma one time.
Yeah, did we not play them there?
I feel like it was at Auburn both times. I'm pretty sure it was. Who was that? Because they had that. Anyway, we played them. That's the main point.
That's right.
That's what it was in the article, unless I took it down wrong and my dictation of everything. So, and then the SEC tournament, obviously March 11th through the 15th, 2026 at Bridgestone in Nashville. So that's the information you need to know. Austin, would you like to point out what's glaringly obvious out of this schedule?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, one was at a neutral site. I'm sorry, that's what I was thinking
Okay.
of. What the very first time back when we played Buddy Hield, that was one of those.
I knew that was the name. I wasn't sure about it.
Hoopsgiving, like not Hoopsgiving, but one of those tournaments. It was in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I knew that there was. I remember watching that game in my mom's bedroom. Anyway, the look, we cannot start first and foremost. Auburn has had the same 3 home and away regular opponents each year for the last decade, and it's been Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss. Look, you can debate should Ole Miss be in there or not, but I think Alabama and Georgia, none of us have ever disagreed with, should play those every year, and you make the return trip each year. For whatever reason, Arkansas has been moved in, and Georgia has been moved out.
Make it make sense.
I
Austin.
don't understand it at all.
Make it make sense.
Now you want to move Ole Miss out. That's a fun rivalry.
Yeah.
It's been a good one for Auburn there and at home. Auburn's done well, but it's also been competitive. You want to move Arkansas in and Ole Miss out, I'm fine. I think those are maybe not equal programs. I'm not saying that. Piggies and Rebels, y'all just calm down. But I'm just saying.
Well, don't get Arkansas YouTube people stirred up. They are like a nest of wasps.
Never mind.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I was going to set you up.
I almost took the bait. I think you can move them out interchangeable, and nobody blinks an eye. But taking Georgia out just really rubs me the wrong way. It doesn't make sense for tradition's sake.
Sizzles my bacon is what it does. Okay,
it just doesn't make sense logistically for the teams and the fans to travel. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't know if maybe the Bulldogs got tired of getting their tails tucked between their legs and asked for that to be removed. I'm not blaming them. I don't know what happened. I don't agree with it. Now, on the flip side, I think gaining Arkansas and obviously Coach Cal and a very, very proud basketball program is a big win for Auburn and getting some more notoriety. They're always going to bring in talent and always going to play Auburn well. So I think it'll serve them well to go to Bud Walton Arena every year and Arkansas come to Neville. But man, taking Georgia off, I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Austin, this is about basketball, but there's a looming thing out there for football schedules that I don't believe Auburn fans have truly grasped yet. That may be a reality. I'm not saying the two things are related here, but if we're willing to take away Auburn and Georgia,
I agree.
I'm not as far as I'm gonna go. That's a discussion for another day.
I agree.
So could it be the SEC doesn't value Auburn-Georgia rivalry as much as we think they do? This is basketball, not football. Anyway, I agree. I am one part offended because I want to see Georgia every year. I'm also kind of thinking about this from a logistical standpoint or just a competitive standpoint. Mike White has given us some heck of a time of Bruce Pearl, all that. So we don't have to see him as much. That's a big win there. I think Georgia's returning to somewhat of relevancy. So, but you're taking on Arkansas, who's got one of the best college basketball coaches out there currently, especially in getting talent, and they've got a proud history. So that's the big takeaway, right? Georgia's get swapped for Arkansas. Why not Ole Miss and then keep Georgia? I don't know. And I mean, why not LSU? If we're just going to go straight rivalry stuff, it should have been Alabama, Georgia, LSU, or at least Florida, of course.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't matter because we're going to get good basketball out of the switcheroo. We'll just have to make peace with it when it comes around. Other things.
Sorry, one question.
No, go ahead.
Where is the Georgia one this year?
The Georgia is away.
So we will be going
Stedman
back
Coliseum.
there.
Yeah, Stedman Coliseum. We'll be back
Weird.
there for.
So we're deprived first.
It's the way it goes. It's our lot in life. I'm trying to think and look through this list a little bit to see anything else that sticks out to me. I saw some conversations that maybe people feel we got the shaft a little bit in terms of difficulty. You get Arkansas and Alabama at home once. Ole Miss. All those programs right there in the double, the home and away, they're prominent enough. So you're going to get a crack at them at home. You get Kentucky. You get Texas A&M. Well, Buzz Williams is not there anymore. Never mind. I don't have to be afraid. But away.
Bucky ball though.
Listen. I know y'all are all about the Bucky ball. I hear.
I'm just saying that.
But listen,
we'll see. It's not. It's going to be fun. I'm glad it's here. Not there.
You got to go to Florida, you got to Oklahoma, you got to go to Tennessee. I mean, what do you think? Is this a pretty fair breakdown in terms
I think we also, for me, I saw Florida on the road and I thought, man, but I mean, they came here last year. Tennessee the same way. They came here last year. So, I think I feel like that's how they operate a lot is sure. you kind of look at the home and the switch. Kentucky, we were at Rupp. They're coming here next year. So those weren't surprises to me. I think also you can look at, the depth of the league and say, did Auburn get the shaft? Who knows? Because this league is incredibly deep. And every game, whether home or away, is going to be a tough one. I don't want to sound all coach speak like that, but it's just true. It really doesn't matter if you don't show up, whether you're at home or on the road. I'm very excited for Texas to come in. They still have the flair to me for some reason. I think because we didn't play them in football, because we played them on the road last year in basketball, they haven't come to Auburn a lot. And so for the vast majority of us to get to see Texas walk in the building. And so I think that's exciting. Like you said, going to Norman is kind of the same way. There's Auburn football is going to Norman this fall. Those are opportunities to go to a different new place for a lot of Auburn fans. So, as far as difficulty, I don't really see it just because I think it's difficult no matter how you slice the cake. But
right.
I don't know. Did something stand out to you?
No, I think that's we've already talked about it. The whole not Georgia playing twice thing is just wild to me. You try to make assumptions off of this schedule based off what happened last year, and you'd probably be wrong a lot in some of these areas.
100%.
I mean, we're probably thinking that, Vanderbilt and South Carolina and Texas A&M without, I know Bucky Ball, but without Buzz Williams has got to make you feel better, especially at home. LSU certainly hasn't been amazing last season, but that's the SEC basketball. It's an arms race always, and you never know who's going to bring in the right talent at the right time. But Bruce Pearl, I think, has us positioned well to meet any challenges that come their way. Certainly a brand new team, but it'll be exciting SEC schedule as it always is for the Auburn Tigers. Let's talk about the women too, because they also got their SEC opponents announced this week too. And I think it's important for us to be ready and to support Coach Larry Vickers in his first season. Trial by fire, coming to, switching over.
Absolutely.
From Norfolk was what? Atlantic Sun? What was their
That
conference?
sounds right.
I'm probably wrong. One of the smaller conferences, and now to the SEC. Now he's been to the SEC, played at Auburn and beat Auburn. So there's that. So he obviously wasn't too scared about it. But taking over as head coach in your first year, this is what he is up against. Here are the women's basketball SEC opponents. Home, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee. Away, Arkansas, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri, Texas, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt. Just like we did with the men, let me point out the obvious here. It's a little bit different in women's basketball schedule. You don't have three that you rotate through twice. You have one, and it's not Alabama. It's not Georgia. It's not LSU. And you're applying traditional football and other sports rivalries to this, but it's Florida. I know it changes every year. It's just different. We're used to men's basketball. But if you got to have an opponent that you see twice, you like the rivalry aspect of Auburn and Florida. They've got a lot of connective tissue, and I like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's the good one. The thing that stands out to me most, I guess, you got South Carolina at home.
Yes.
You got, I think you said LSU at home.
LSU's at home
right?
too. Two of the most premier programs in college, women's college
Tennessee
basketball.
as well. Is that what I heard?
Tennessee as well.
So, I mean, those are three really big opportunities for Coach Vickers and Auburn women's basketball. Those will be very well attended games. That's great for Auburn athletics news. And certainly, we love to see that talent in Auburn on display. Those will likely be highly televised games.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a great, like you said, opportunity for Coach Vickers in his first SEC season. Now, there's the flip side of that. You got to go to Texas. And you got to go to Ole Miss, I think you said, as well. And so am I right or am I wrong?
Where am I? Am I looking at the wrong? Ole Miss, yeah, they are. Sorry, I was looking at the other list. Ole Miss, yes.
So there's just like the men's side, there's a flip side to all this where it's difficult no matter what. But three really high-profile home games for Auburn women's basketball. So definitely keep that in mind as those dates come out later, and go support these ladies.
And see, it's the biggest thing to me. Yes, we're making assumptions based on what we think we know about the SEC. You know that Dawn Staley and South Carolina is going to be formidable. You know, I always forget how to pronounce her name. McCulkey. How do you say her? LSU?
Mulkey, just Mulkey.
Why did I say McCulkey? I'm trying to do like Coley McCulkey. And her antics and all that stuff. When you get a crack at those two programs right now,
that's right.
and it's at home, even in a first-year head coach, folks, y'all got to turn out for this, and we did it to LSU once previous with Coach Johnny Harris. Let's do it again. You get Florida, you get Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee, all these traditional rivals.
Home schedule. Yeah.
If you're Coach Larry Vickers, you're not saying, wow, like this is just going to set up really nice before, because you still got to play the SEC. But in some ways you are saying that. He's like, I get my rivals at home, the toughest, the two standards essentially that are going to be there at home. It couldn't have been better. So my request and my advice also is to the Auburn family. If you can attend, please do come support these ladies. Come support Coach Larry Vickers in these home campaigns. Remember, a lot of these are played, especially on a Sunday after a men's basketball game. There's not reason, if you can stay in through the weekend, the full schedule times and all that will be announced, and we'll tell you the best winter weekends when that.
Oh yeah, we'll pick them.
But exciting for women's basketball and their SEC schedule being out now, for the men's basketball team as well. A lot to look forward to in the shooty hoops across Auburn sports.
Shooty hoops,
and we'll be talking about it much more in the coming months. That's going to do it for episode 130 of the Auburn Experience podcast. As always, we appreciate you spending some time with us. As you are watching or listening, please make sure you're following, subscribing, whichever way you're consuming this particular podcast, and we would appreciate reviews, all that kind of stuff on your audio podcast, things like that. If you want to keep up with me, do so on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they find you?
Yeah, on X, on Instagram at Austin G. Scott. Meant to tell you this, Kyle. This is a good way to close and remind you to subscribe and follow. A friend of mine is primarily lives in Asia. I'll just say that, and does some mission work over there. Told me got to see him. They came back in town for a while and told me that we are one of his listens. And so I thought that was pretty cool. That the Auburn family stretches wide and far. So
yes,
we definitely appreciate wherever you're listening from.
We know we have listeners over in Great Britain, or UK, I guess I should say, to be proper about all that. I know one time we had someone call in from, I believe it was Singapore one time on one of our live streams before. And so it's wild. The Auburn family is obviously not just centralized to a little town in I should say Eastern Alabama, Eastern Central. It's not just Alabama. It's not just the Southeast. It's all over. It's wide, vast. And so that's awesome to hear that our little family within the Auburn family extends just about as far. Thank you all for tuning in to episode 130. Until we talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.